It was sex. It was sex that made me rethink. Those people who grew up on the pa and stuff and like all those tikanga about what you're allowed and not allowed to do, I didn't know any of that. I felt so not Māori enough. And then my world kind of exploded because I had broken all the rules. I had sinned. 8 years I hadn't been touched by a man. 8 years I had been on my own. And I walked away and have never gone back. It is religion and Jesus Christ first, and culture second. Almost like the last big piece of unpacking that I had done. Stepping into my true, whole, authentic, powerful self.
Kia ora everyone and welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to bring you an amazing guest today who I've been chasing to get on here for you. She is an author, a public speaker, a facilitator and an MC. And I'm really excited to share her story of growing up in conservative Christianity. As you know, this channel is all about deconstructing faith, finding your own power, finding your voice and stepping into your calling. So without further ado, so excited to bring Miraka Davies to you. Hi Miraka, how are you?
Oh, kia ora, tēnā koe Lilia, Aotearoa, tēnā koutou katoa. It's just such an honour to be here. I'm good. I've been looking forward to this. I'm in my usual state, which I describe as a piwai waka or the fantail, which is I'm always flitting here, and there. In fact, for my ADHD self, I think that that's a really nice description because, you know, piwai waka, they still get the things that they need to get. They just look like they're all over the place. So it's nice to sit and have a kōrero with you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I've been so excited to reach out and actually have this collaboration. As you know, we met when I was exploring my Indigenous roots. I've had a very conservative Christian background, and then I wanted to explore what being Māori meant to me, and we talked about Moko at the time because I was really interested in what that looked like for me. But I'd love for you to just take me back into what did your childhood look like, and growing up in conservative Christianity, what was that like for you? I'd love to know a bit more about your story and what's brought you to where you are today.
Kia ora, thank you. Just to address the elephant in the room for the audience, I don't like to name the religion that I was raised in. It was a conservative Christian religion. The reason I don't like to name it is as opposed to so many others, yourself included, Lilia, who really needed to escape, who really needed to get away from something that had caused harm, where they were oppressed. My journey was not about leaving as much as it was about moving towards something. And I outgrew the religion that I was raised in. I know many good people who still practice that religion. And that's why I don't want to name it and make it sound like I'm opposed. Having said that, my upbringing was really beautiful and secure. And I was raised to believe, well, I didn't have any brothers. So there's me and 3 older sisters. I was really raised to believe that girls could do anything, like women were it. Yes, I had a dad, but even our cat and our dog were girls, like poor thing. I remember actually thinking, I feel sorry for boys. They're so limited. We can wear skirts and pants, but they can only wear pants. I mean, this is 40 odd years ago, right? So clearly that's not the way we see things now. But so in my world, I was raised to understand that I was a powerful woman. And that women had power, which is so different to so many other people's experience, even in that particular religion. So I just want to acknowledge that beautiful experience. I also was raised believing that everyone was of worth and value and had limitless potential, divine potential. And so my default position with all people is just to love them and think that they're amazing until they give me a reason to believe otherwise, you know.
Right.
That's my default. Humans are worthy of love. And so while I outgrew that belief system and needed to stretch my wings, needed to move away, needed to get new perspectives, I acknowledge that in that upbringing, I was safe, I was secure, I was loved, and all of the skill sets that make me the successful human that I am today, especially particularly successful in business, my ability to speak, to teach, to facilitate, to organize, they all came from that upbringing, because in our religion, You teach classes from an early age. You take on responsibilities to organize things from an early age. I remember being 11 years old and one of the speakers in the Sunday meetings hadn't shown up, and my dad was running things, and he's like, I'm like, yeah, I know how to write a talk in give me 5 minutes. I'm up there doing my unprepared talk to the congregation. So I've got all of those things. And then at age 38, 3 children, have brought 3 children into this world, had been married twice, and widowed once, divorced the second time, single mum of 3 children. And I was on my own, and I have to be straight up. It was sex. It was sex that made me rethink my entire belief system.
Right.
Because the way that I was raised, sex inside of marriage is appropriate and not outside of marriage, full stop. And I'd been married twice. And then I had been on my own for a long time because I didn't want to put my children through all the dramas of another relationship. So I had just put blinders on, gone, okay, I'm done. This is me for the rest of my life. And I had a beautiful man that I worked with who I had been friends with for years. And I think the universe was doing some things because I wanted that man desperately, and I acted on that. And then my world kind of exploded because I had broken all the rules. I had sinned. I was unworthy now. It rocked me. It rocked me more than my first husband dying unexpectedly many years before that. It rocked me because as opposed to a husband dying and leaving me a single mum with a 1-year-old son, and the messiness around that he had told me that he wanted to leave and didn't love me, like messy, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to that time where I had my faith to help me through that experience, walking away from church was like pulling the rug out from under my own feet. I had no idea where I stood. I had no idea what I believed anymore. I had no idea where my moral compass should be pointing. How do you make those decisions when you've walked away from something that has been your entire belief system? It decides what I eat, what I wear, when I wake up, and the things that I do, the books that I read, how I speak. Never said fuck until I was 38, except for one time when I told my second husband to shut the fuck up, and he deserved it, just saying. But apart from that, like, I had never tasted tea or coffee. I had never drunk alcohol. I had never smoked a cigarette, still never smoked a cigarette. I see no reason to bring that into my realm of experience. It was like a midlife crisis. I shaved my head. It was messy. I'm 52 now, so that was 14 years ago that I walked away, and I walked away and have never gone back.
I'm just so drawn to when you talk about your whole identity has been this religion or this faith or this person that you thought you were going to be. Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through a bit of the process that you experienced when you were like, I've got to build from the ground up now? Like, where do I go from here? How do you find who you are? How do you begin to reconstruct something for yourself? Can you tell us how you navigated that liminal time between you having your identity inside of your faith and then your identity now?
It's a big question, and I don't know if I was super conscious about all of it. I can look back now and reflect. I remember the first kind of explicit step that I had to take was as a mum who was raising my children in this religion. And at that stage, they were 8 to early teens, mid-teens, so old enough to know some things. And I had raised them, like, we got up on Sunday mornings and we got dressed into our best clothes and we went to church, and we didn't watch TV on Sundays, and we didn't go shopping on Sundays or play sports on Sundays or swim, right? Sundays is a sacred day. You have to, like, rest, but then you're not supposed to sleep all day either. Like, it's all these things. And then that's just Sundays. What about all the other things all the rest of the week? We're supposed to do things together as a family. We're supposed to read scriptures, all those things. So there were always all these shoulds. And I needed to be able to sit my children down and go, okay, this is big. This doesn't feel right to me anymore. I don't have any answers, but I have to be true to myself. And in order to stand in my truth right now, I need to say to you, I don't know what's true right now. I'm going to stop going to church for now. Now, what this means for you is that you have the ability, it's your choice. If you want to keep going, I support you 100%. I will drive you to church. I will drive you to your activities. I will do all the things. What I won't do, though, what I can't do, and I'm so sorry, is that I can't come with you, because sitting in those meetings and receiving messages that I'm not worthy because of the choices that I've made, that's going to cause me harm. And I love myself too much to keep going somewhere where it makes me feel bad. It hasn't made me feel bad in the past, but now that I'm making different choices, my oldest, my son, was basically, he was already out. He was kind of like, sweet, you just didn't know. Cool, now I don't have to hide it. Okay, easy.
Yeah.
my youngest daughter, who's on the spectrum and who therefore is black and white and likes rules and expectations and order and knowing, having a very clear way of deciding what's right and wrong. It took her, I'm pretty sure it was 5 whole years to not feel betrayed by me. And that was rough. And I can understand why. She's like, Mum, you raised us to believe all these things and you told all of us that this was true and this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And now you're breaking all the rules. You're doing all the wrong things. And she was so betrayed. All I could do is keep saying to her, I hear you and I'm so sorry. I wish I wasn't hurting you, but I have to stand in my integrity. And if this changes tomorrow, I will keep you up to date. I'll tell you if the way I see things changes, and the next day and the next. But the way I see it for today, because I don't have all the answers, is that this thing doesn't feel right. I need to step back. I need to explore things. I want to experience life differently. I definitely told my kids, I will figure things out along the way, and I'm sorry that it's hard for you as I do that. My middle daughter, she just kind of slowly petered out her participation in church over the next couple of years. She was quite comfortable that it was up to her either way. And so none of my children go to that, participate in that religion anymore. Some of them are probably relatively opposed. I have some real challenges with organised religion in general. There are just lots of pitfalls. I love a personal belief system that includes faith and spirituality. I support and applaud anyone whose faith gives them comfort, security in who they are in the world. It becomes a problem for me once they use it as a big stick to hit other people with as soon as there's judgment. Because that's the other thing with my way of being raised in that religion. Of course there is some judgment, of course there is. But it was much more about judging ourselves in my family. It was much more about being critical of ourselves, policing our own thoughts, those kinds of things, than looking down on other people because they were bad. We were raised to love people even though they were making bad decisions, So there's a level of judgment, but it wasn't complete. You're a bad human because of what you're doing. It was, you're making the wrong choices. Now, because of that, I stepped away from my entire social network because my entire social network was in the church. And I knew that they would look at me and look down on me for, you're off the path right now. You'll come back. And I didn't want the people that I loved to be condescending like that to me. I knew that that's what they think. So I just walked away. Some people assume that I was ostracized by the religion or something, and I wasn't. I walked away. I removed myself.
That's a really beautiful story. And I don't think people talk enough about the impact that it has on our families when we leave, because there's so many people involved in your life and there's so many complex relationships. And when you've developed those relationships inside of a faith-based space, to now redefine what those relationships look like outside of that space is totally new, uncharted territory. And it's hard for both parties. It's not, you're here going, okay, who am I? How do I navigate this? And then you've got these children and family members who are saying, well, how do we navigate this new version of you that we don't know yet as you're finding your own feet? So thank you so much for sharing that. It sounds like you had some really beautiful experiences inside of conservative religion and then ultimately found your path out of it. You've talked a little bit about your issues with organized religion. Like for me, some of the issues around heaven and hell and the concept of heaven and hell are quite difficult for me to deal with because I don't like the idea of if you don't choose to follow this faith that you are then punished for eternity in a hell. How have you resolved those beliefs around heaven and hell?
The short answer is I haven't. I don't know. And I've been relatively happy to sit in a place for, going on 14 years now of, I don't know. There are some things that I feel like I do know, and I'll talk about those in a moment. When I walked away, I gave myself permission to just blank slate everything. Having said that, though, it's amazing over the years as you continue unpacking things, the things that come up that you didn't even realize that you still believed that it was still in there deep down. I catch myself having an opinion or reacting in a particular way. I remember in the relatively early years, some discussion around abortion, which obviously for pretty much every conservative Christian religion is an absolute no-no. And feeling my instinctive like, oh no, that's bad, because that's the position I had always taken. And then going, oh, wait, hang on. That's what I used to believe. This is probably time to revisit this, that kind of thing. And now, the corridor that I have with my daughters and have done for many years now about supporting them to, particularly because I'm very hard on myself with my parenting. It's the area of my life where I am the most critical, many years of therapy, because I think I have believed that I'm the world's worst parent, all of that kind of stuff. And one of the things in church was that I didn't think about whether or not I would have children. That wasn't a conscious choice. It's just what life was. You get to a certain age, you get married, you have children. It's literally the purpose of life is to procreate and then to raise good humans and all try to be the best that you can be. And so having that conversation with my children, my daughters in particular, about, that you have a choice, right? No one really ever told me that. I didn't even think about it. And therefore, please, please, please have children when you are ready, not when an accident happens. Now, if you feel that you're ready when an accident happens, cool. But I would much rather that you knew that every choice is open to you. And I support every choice you have to make. So that's like an example. When it comes to heaven and hell, I don't have a clue. I know for sure that there are spiritual things that we can't see. There are intangibles. There are powers that are greater than us. I believe that. I feel it. I see it. In Te Ao Māori and Te Ao Māori, we might call it the wahine, like the thing, the intangible things, Te Ao Wairua. I believe in that. I feel it. I have no problems manifesting or doing karakia Māori. I don't do Christian karakia anymore. I believe that there are things out there that are greater than me. I feel that. I believe that there is an afterlife. I have no idea what that looks like. I think that it's pretty irrelevant. Don't need to know. One day I'll find out. Can I feel both of my parents? Sorry, who are both gone now. I just lost my dad 6 months ago and mum 3 years before that. Can I feel them nearby or call to them to be nearby? Yeah, I believe that I can. Is there a place where we go for eternal punishment? Nah, fuck that. Nah, I don't believe that. If you're a miserable human in this world, then I think that you're probably still going to be a miserable human after this world. So you might make your own hell, but I don't think there's a place where somebody sends us to be punished for the eternities.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I used to have a specific and exact answer to everything. There is a complete plan. There aren't unknowns.
Right.
So I'm probably surprised that I was able quite quickly to go, the fuck do I know? I'm just going to keep going. Going to figure shit out as I go.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I ever will. I don't feel like I need to understand. I'm open to experiences that can confirm things to me that I believe to be true. Not open to anyone else telling me how it works. Not open to anyone else telling me, well, there is a heaven and this is how heaven works. Because how the fuck would you know?
Being able to hear your experience and hear how you navigate that. It sounds like you have found a way to sit in the grey area and to be comfortable with not knowing everything. In the way that I was raised, it was black or it was white, and that was how you make sense of the world. Yeah. So there's a box and everything fits into a box. Yeah. And as I've gotten older and more come into myself and my body and decided what I want and had that choice, it's really been about navigating what I don't know and being okay sitting with uncertainty. There's a grey area. There's not always this hugely polarizing, like it's this or it's that. Sometimes online and even in politics, we so polarize the other party or the opposing party that it creates this conflict that's completely unnecessary when it comes to like navigating belief, navigating spirituality and finding out what that is for us. What did your Indigenous roots and what did Te Ao Māori have to play in this exploration of yourself as you were finding what that meant to you? How did you connect to your roots? Talk to us about that journey.
Kia ora. Because it is very much a journey. And like I said, I'm 52 now. I'm conversational in Te Ao Māori now, was not raised with any reo. I have just recently been voted on as a trustee on our iwi trust board on Ngāti Rehua Ngātiwai ki Aotea, which is our iwi on Great Barrier Island. So I'm now a trustee and my portfolio of responsibility is our reo and our tikanga and our mātauranga. Oh my God, like the weight of responsibility. I feel like such a baby in this. I've always known who I am, my Māori heritage, always known that. Could tell you from day one, Ngātiwai is my main connection that I was raised understanding. But I didn't have the reo to articulate that. I didn't have the tikanga, because on our island at the time when I was growing up, we didn't have any marae. So those people who grew up on the pā and stuff and like all those tikanga about what you're allowed and not allowed to do, I didn't know any of that. I felt so not Māori enough. I've been in and out of my Te Ao Māori journey for years and years.
Yeah.
Around the time that I walked away from the church, I was working at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. So I had for the previous 8 years, this door open for me to enter into Te Ao Māori, and I was surrounded by the culture and I was just soaking it up like a sponge and so grateful for those opportunities. My place in Te Ao Māori was getting stronger and stronger. Did that contribute to the decision? I think probably, not consciously, but I was getting more confident in who I was.
I grew up and we were racially discriminated against. I was publicly shamed in front of hundreds of people for identifying as Māori. So to, after that, now be able to go, I'm going to go and learn Te Reo. I'm going to actually go to my marae. I have choices to do those things now without someone saying to me, you're not allowed to do that, or you can't do that because you should only be identifying as God's child. What were the practical things that you were able to do that moved you closer to that connection with your Māori?
Kia ora. So explicitly in my family, at least, in the church, it is religion and Jesus Christ first and culture second, just explicitly stated. So you can be Māori, you can be involved in Te Ao Māori, you can learn the reo, you can do all the things, but Christ is at the top of everything, right? And so if there's ever any clash between the belief system in Te Ao Māori and the Christian belief system, this wins. Like, that was explicit for me. I really admire other people that I know who are still in the church, who are really into their Ao Māori and they seem to have found a way to have those coexist without putting one ahead of the other. I certainly don't know how to do that. I can't even imagine how to do that. So back then, while sure I could lean into learning about, well, our heritage, our whakapapa, our genealogy, that's part of that religion, is getting into your whakapapa. So that was already all known, right? But it's the ability to live in Māori ways, the ability to have Māori beliefs about how you interact with the world and those kinds of things that was discouraged if there was a clash. So it wasn't like I was discouraged at all, but it was a very clear hierarchy about where this belongs. After leaving the church, and I was already in and out of my Te Reo Māori journey, so I don't know if anything changed in terms of my commitment to want to go on that journey or my ability to go on that journey, but the thirst that I have now to learn more karakia Māori, to understand, like, here's an example of something that I've learned in the last couple of years, and it doesn't mean that it's truth, but it's something that I've been taught. In Christian prayers, or what we might call inoi, or karakia, when people are translating that to mean prayer, because it doesn't have to mean that. The relationship between us and who we're praying to is very vertical. Yeah, we are down here. We are praying to somebody who is greater than us, who is all powerful, who we are deferring to them. We thank, we attribute everything to them. Everything we get is because of them. Everything we need, we ask them for. Karakia Māori are like this. We're here existing in the taiao. We're existing with the world around us. And those atua, like, say, tangaroa. Tangaroa is not the picture. I need to give a shout out to someone called Devin Wikaira who taught me this up north, because it's not my mātauranga, and it's a beautiful thing that he helps people just think about. Tangaroa is not that image that someone has created or painted of, a face that's like the god of the moana. Tangaroa is the moana. You step into it, you are interacting with Tangaroa, not with some god of the ocean. You go into the ngahere, you go into the bush. That is Tāne. It's not that you're in the bush and then there is a god of the bush. Yeah. So learning that these karakia, the relationship between us expressing the karakia and who it is that we're talking to is vastly different. Learning something like that brings me so much joy. And if you want this relationship, I support you in that. If that's what gives you comfort and strength, cool. But having this over here doesn't mean you have to pick one. They're just different ways of interacting. So I'm very much on a journey now where I do really, really push back against my whānau who they've got some reo Māori, but all their karakia are still Christian. They want all their Christian things to happen on the marae, even though it's happening in Te Reo Māori. And I'm like, I'm very uncomfortable with that. I keep ruffling feathers. Have your church in your church. Come to the marae for things Māori. And that's not something that everyone's comfortable with at all. And that's my position.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a really interesting experience the other day. I was in a cafe and I was working, and then there were two Christian men at the tables beside me who started praying incredibly loudly in a public space. And I was like, look, I'm cool with you being Christian, you believing what you believe, but go do that in church or go do it in your car. Like, this is a public space that people come to socialize, and I'm here trying to work. And also, it's so insensitive to the world around you and so disrespectful of the diversity that exists around you to be enacting that on such a like public scale. So, but it was I was like, of course, this has been primarily my experience with Christian people and the Christian religion. Not everyone, absolutely not everyone has been like that. But so often I've had to, even in my family, say, actually, no, this is pushing past my boundaries. And I had an interesting conversation with someone on my social media the other day as well. And it was like, why do we have religion and then sometimes boundaries get forgotten once religion gets introduced, and respect and basic dignity get forgotten once religion gets introduced? It's about bringing both to the table. Bring your faith to the table, great, but also bring respect, also bring ability to tolerate diversity, and also bring that boundaried like approach when you're interacting with other people around you, because not everyone has that faith, even though you do.
I would like to think that the way that I was raised, that the Christian values that I was raised with already did teach me to be very loving and very respectful of all people. Having said that, I can look back now and go, oh, that assuredness, that grounding in, I know the truth and you don't, means that we do that without intending to. So I guess there's kind of a balanced answer there. Like, I didn't look back and go, oh, wow, you were treating people like shit, because I wasn't. Because now that I see other people, treating me that way, or, they're so sure that their beliefs are right and they're unapologetic about it. Here's an example. In the first few years, I had a very, very good friend who I'd worked with for years and is in the church. We'd known each other probably on and off since teenagers. And I can't remember how it came about, but he wanted to know how I was. And so I just told him, look, I just can't feel like this way that I'm living is wrong. I don't feel unworthy. It doesn't feel like a sin. By then I'm living with my partner. It just doesn't feel wrong. And he went, it will. And I was like, motherfucker. And I've just pretty much never spoken to him again ever since. I'm like,
yeah,
how rude, how condescending, how egotistical to think you just know all the truth. And oh, poor me for just not seeing it right now. Ooh. And that example that you shared about the Christian prayer in a public space like that, I mean, I was raised to believe you could just say it quietly with each other at the table, or you could say it in your head, right? For me, that's performative. The only reason you need to do it out loud for everyone to hear is to show how great you are. That's
right. And one of my other audience members also said, they were actually taught that as part of soft evangelical Christianity. This is how you witness, this is how you show the world that this is what they should be doing.
You're modeling the behavior.
Yeah. And I was very much taught that too. Like, if you're not a light on a hill, like if you're not showing the world that this is the way, the truth, and the light, like and this is the one true church of God, then you're not a good Christian. And you're like, at any time, God could come back, the rapture could happen, and you would be sent to hell because he would find you wanting. Yeah. And those were the beliefs that I kind of went, I don't know about this. This doesn't, like you say, contribute to my sense of worthiness. For me, leaving Christianity was a morality thing. Like, I couldn't stay in Christianity with the homophobia that I was seeing, and the like men are better than women, and men, the roles, the gendered roles. Like there were so many like moral crises that I was having when I was leaving Christianity.
More and more coming probably with where
Yeah.
we've gone in terms of non-binary and our understanding of the whole rainbow, like I think there would be more
Yeah.
and more of those challenges coming, probably those moral quandaries.
Which is why I really like respect people who, okay, you've been raised in conservative Christianity, but you decide to keep your faith, but you learn to practice in a way that's not harmful to others and that is accepting. And, a lot of the time when I'm online commenting on posts, it's like, well, you see Christians saying things and I'm like, pretty sure, Jesus wouldn't say that or wouldn't behave like that. Like
there are memes and T-shirts of pictures of Jesus that say, "I said the fuck now."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of like that whole question around, like, I wanted to discuss with you around like colonialism and how Christianity was like, Jesus was basically whitewashed and then how that was then brought over into Māori. It's also interesting to me in terms of faith, because I know that the Christian faith was brought over by the colonists as well.
5 generations ago, my great-great-grandmother, Raihi Miraka Davies, and so now I've taken on her name Miraka. When we first met, I was going by Shelley, which is what I've been known my whole life, and that's been part of my real journey. She accepted this religion. She accepted Christianity. As the leader of our whānau at the time, pretty much everyone followed. I don't know if it was you have to, or if they were just happy to follow her. I look back now, and when it comes to my new role to help us to reclaim our reo and our tikanga and our mātauranga for our iwi on the island, I find myself getting angry many times, not at her specifically, but at religion, at the missionaries, at the colonizers. And I think that religion, I know that religion is one of the major vehicles for that, right? We're going to take over your belief system. And if your culture is grounded in your belief system, then we are erasing your culture. And it might not be explicit, and sometimes it is, but it might not be. But we're now going to ask you to do these practices instead of the ones that you've done for thousands of years, right? And so then those get devalued and then they get forgotten. And I get angry. I get angry when I see my whānau, and like me too, who are desperate for our reo, for our language. They are desperate for, I want to be able to stand up and sing the waiata with the whole group and I don't know them. And, those kinds of things. I get really angry that got taken away from us and that I have to pay. Like I think last year I added up, it's like $27,000 to go to all of the kaupapa that I wanted to go to last year to just soak everything up like a sponge. $10,000 a couple of years ago to do a 1-year course at university. Now, there are plenty of Māori who are like, I shouldn't have to pay, and they're right. But I have a choice of, do I want to sit here and be right and still not have my reo, or do I want to pay and get my reo and then do something about it? And so I get angry at religion for being the vehicle through which those things have been lost to us. And that's why I'm adamant, like, keep your religion out of our marae, please. And that is not a fight that I have won yet, by the way, at all, because we've still got kaumātua who are really staunch in the religion. When I got my moko kauai, I didn't ask permission from my parents or from our kaumātua. Why? Because most of them were in the religion. And my analogy is, you don't ask vegans for permission to eat steak. So why would I go and ask them for permission to put a tattoo on my face? Now, it's much more than that, of course. But ultimately, as far as they are concerned, that's what it is. I did go to my parents and say, hey, I've made a decision that's going to be really hard for you, and so I'm here to talk to you about it. And I did show up to our kaumātua the day after I had it done to receive whatever displeasure or whatever they had for me. There was nothing but love, and that was a good lesson for me. I see religion as the vehicle that has taken so many things from us. Even as simple as, and I'm sure you relate to this, comfort and confidence in our bodies. I still remember vividly the first day I wanted to wear a singlet and show my shoulders out in public because I had never done that before. Now, I'd wear togs to go swimming, but just choose to wear a singlet because the belief is like keep your shoulders covered down to your knees pretty much. And I felt vulnerable and exposed and like scared to walk down the street. And then to realize no one's even looking at me. No one even cares. I'm the only one that thinks that this is unusual. And now I'm just like, I I would practically wear no clothes if it was socially acceptable. I just want my skin to feel the sun. I just revel in my body. Christianity put shame on our body. Christianity made us believe that there is shame, even though that might not be the message. The message is you cover it up. The message might be because it's tapu or sacred, but what actually happens is that we develop shame around our body.
Personally, for me, it was about, well, you have to cover up because it's your job to make men not want you. And if you don't cover up, then you're tempting them. And suddenly I'm responsible for someone else's actions, which for me was just another terrible form of victim blaming, which is why the church, there was so much horrible things that happened in the church where I grew up. Can you talk me through the process and how you made the decision to leave the church?
I had a belief since I was about 15 that my purpose on earth was to love people. Now that still feels really true to me. No one told me that. That's something that I landed on. By the way, now I believe that I've graduated to my purpose is to show other people what it looks like to love yourself. That's my aim in my keynote speaking and in all of my mahi, is to just show up to the world and go, hey, this is what it can look like when you love yourself. Because I was so convinced that I was a human whose entire purpose on the planet was to be loving, then when it came to a point that I had been on my own, now we're talking about physical affection here, right? Love in a physical form, physical expressions of care and of intimacy. 8 years I hadn't been touched by a man. 8 years I had been on my own. Masturbation is not allowed in the religion either. Right? That's a bad thing. You even probably should go and confess it to the men. Like, don't even get me started on that. I hadn't been touched all that time. And then all of a sudden, I felt attracted to this man who was my good friend at work and who was safe. So I started flirting with him because it was safe. And I didn't expect anything back. And he was like, well, I could help you with that if you want. And then I was like, We got together and we had sex. And I drove home from that experience back home to my children sobbing. I cried and cried and cried all the way home because it dawned on me that I had completely forgotten what it was like in the world to be a receiver of things. I was the giver of all things. I was the giver of all things in my entire world. I'm giving to my children, my household. I'm buying groceries for my neighbors who are struggling. I'm giving at church. I'm giving in all these organizations. I'm giving at work. And it's crass and it's funny, but it's also true. This man gave. He gave to me, and it was a spiritually powerful experience to remember that I was worthy of receiving. And so I cried all the way home, and I thought, how did I get to this point where I had forgotten that I was worthy to receive love? And so then this little crack opened. I'm a loving being. If there is a God, and he's a he, because that's the only framework that I had at the time, and God created me to be a loving being, why would he want me to exist without receiving love? And that was what opened this little crack for the light to come in, because I was like, that doesn't make sense. Those two things can't both be true, that he created me to be a loving being and I have to exist without receiving love in this format. And that was enough for me to then go, I have a choice now whether to live my truth, honor myself, or honor the people around me who I'm worried about hurting, particularly my family and my parents. And I decided that I could live better with the guilt of causing them some discomfort. I didn't cause them harm. If they choose to be harmed by my choices, that is their actual choice. Did I cause them some discomfort and some unhappiness and some worry? Yes, I can live with that better than living a life that's not true for me. It would just eat me away. It would eat me up. So my decision was to honor myself because I'm a loving being and I'm worthy of love.
You're right. It's often just one little crack that sets someone free. And it's not necessarily setting them free from the faith, but it might set them free from the religion or the control or the things that are toxic, the toxic theologies, the things that are causing harm and an impact on their self-worth. And for me, a big one was just, I can wear pants.
Wow, yeah.
A woman is allowed to wear pants. That was massive for me. Just like your story, it is just that one little crack and you're like, wait, I believe in this loving God. Would that God want this for me? A lot of people who have deconstructed ask that. They're asking big questions about what the God that they truly believe in acts, how that entity acts and desires for them. When you talk about our body and our body belonging to us, and you've had your Moko, Can you tell us that story?
First of all, this tupuna of ours, my tupuna raihi Miraka, we have photos of her with her moko kauai, and we grew up as little girls just like revering her like a Māori princess. Everyone's got a Māori princess in their ancestry, but she was a rangatira, she was a chief, she was powerful. And always looking at her and going, oh, I wish we could be like her, wish I could have this. But inherent in that desire was also that, but we can't because it's wrong. It dawned on me that was something that I had never challenged. And the way that I got to that point was my son was having a really, really particularly hard time in his life, really, really hard. And we went to a psychologist to get some support, some insights. And the report that came back to me from the psychologist ultimately was this. The reason that he is struggling in his life is because he wasn't kept safe enough as a child. Yeah. And I had, for context, I had, I don't know how many years of therapy before this, and had very recently got to a point where I could say, yeah, I think I did okay as a mum. Like years and years of therapy. And here is an actual psychologist. Now, to her credit, she was telling me exactly what I had asked for. I wanted her insight into why he was struggling. And regardless of the level of safety that he needs and the level that I provided and whether there was a mismatch, the fact remains that his lived experience was that he wasn't kept safe enough. And I broke. I broke. I cried for 4 days. It's like fetal on the floor in the shower. Like I couldn't see any way to pick myself up from that. And then I got angry. I got really angry because I felt betrayed by this entire upbringing that had told me that if I was a good girl and if I followed all the rules, then there would be good outcomes. And I had done all of that. And what had it got my son? Like he was struggling. It hadn't got us anywhere. I felt betrayed. And I looked in the mirror and I had a big fat puffy face from crying and everything. And I caught a glimpse of my tupuna raihi in the mirror. And I was like, wish I could do that. Because I was well into my reo journey at that time. Wish I could do that, but I can't. And I caught myself because one of the things that I've worked really hard on over the years is to listen to that inner voice and honor it and ask where it's coming from. Oh, I wish I could do that, but I can't. Hang on, who says that I can't? What would happen if I did? All that kind of thing. It caught me like, hang on, who's saying that I can't? Now, I haven't revisited this. And I realized I wasn't going to ask my parents for reasons I've already said. I wasn't going to ask our kaumātua for reasons I've already said. Whose permission did I actually need? Oh, mine. I remember going out to my partner, same beautiful man, and going, is it a bad reason to get your moko kauai because you're fucked off at the world? Because I was angry. I was angry. And I had to get angry enough to challenge that belief. I had to get angry enough to challenge that belief and feel let down by all of the things that I had once believed to be true. And he's this beautiful, calm, he's a carver from Whanua Apanui. He's pretty well known. He's really gentle. And he was like, could be worse reasons. So I asked him that night to draw a moko on me, and it didn't take too long after that for me to go, yeah, I do want to do this. I needed him to be okay with it because he has to look at my face. Doesn't mean that if he said no that I wouldn't have done it. I wanted his opinion. I would take that into account. I needed my children to be okay with it. If they weren't, I would wait until they were. So that was whose permission or whose support I needed, was just my partner and my kids. Then I went ahead and got it done. And for me, it was almost like the last big piece of unpacking that I had done. Stepping into my true, whole, authentic, powerful self by showing up in the world in a way that people can visibly see who I've always known myself to be. But before, it used to be inside. And because I'm so fair-skinned, I would have to justify who I was, explain, put up with people assuming all the time that I'm not Māori, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted the world to see the person that I knew myself to be. I also wanted to reject some of the white privilege that I had grown up with. And I think we know more about that these days, but at the time, some people would freaked out at me talking about it like that. White privilege. I don't know why they had a problem with it. But it has done that, rejected some of the safety and, just assuming that I can just walk into every place and not be judged, which is what my life was like until I had this on my face. And you have to know when you do this that changes. And I have never felt more whole than since I got my moko kauai. I got the chin done first, and then after my full year of total immersion Te Ao Māori about 4 years ago, I went back and got the lips.
Beautiful. And you had yours done the traditional way, didn't you?
Yeah, uhi and like stick and poke. So just like with like individual needle. I really wanted that experience. I assumed that that's what my great-great-grandmother would have experienced, and I wanted an experience somewhat similar to hers. I also really wanted it done by a wahine, if that was at all possible. So Pip Hartley was able to do that. Karanga Inc. is her business. She came to my home, and it was a really, really beautiful experience. Also, because I'm super ADHD and I never sit still, that was a long process, lying still, and the whole process took close to 7 hours from drawing it up to just doing the whole thing. And I think that I needed that much time to go through the process kind of spiritually and transition from who I had been for the world to see to standing back in the world in a more complete way. I love that it took that much time. I went all kinds of places while that was happening. I had to relinquish a lot of the control that I like to have.
Yeah.
Look after everybody in the room, or you can't be lying there and having this done while looking after everybody. I've got a picture of one of my mokopuna biting my toe, and I did not feel that. I was in another place, and yeah.
Yeah. I love that we talked about moko, but you started by telling the story of family and how that led you there. And I think that's just so beautiful. It's not about just markings on your face. It's about the stories that you carry in your body, the stories that your family carry, and then owning those. And I just feel like when you were talking, it was like that act for you of getting that done. It was like opening a door in front of you into a new sort of world for you. You really stepping into your power.
Yeah. And as far as I am aware, I was the first of her descendants to have a moko kauai, and now there are many of us. And that was a part of my decision-making process was I'm strong enough. I'm strong enough to be the first one and to face any criticism from amongst our wider whānau. I'm strong enough to open this door again so that others can follow. And I'm very, very proud of that.
So I guess that kind of brings me into today. You own your own business, you're a published author, Lessons in Badassery, and you have another published book as well. I'd love you to talk about those. Can you tell us your journey into what you do today, why you do it, and just share that with the audience?
So I'd have to say that it's tupuna-led, that it's been guided, driven by our ancestors. I would have to say that. And I don't know if I've ever quite said it that explicitly. I was working at Te Aotearoa at my mum's encouragement. I would have looked at that job ad in the newspaper, because that's how long ago it was that we're talking about, and thought, oh, I'm not Māori enough for that job. And she was like, yes, you are. You should do that. So I applied and I got the job. That was, like we said, my opening into my access into receiving all of this knowledge and slowly starting to understand Te Ao Māori. Through that work, I met my partner, Mike, had these experiences that brought me to walk away from the church. Right as that was happening, my nana called me, my dad's mum, on her 89th birthday and asked me to stand for election for our iwi trust board. Now, I knew nothing and I was terrified. And it was her 89th birthday, and you don't say no to your nana on her 89th birthday. That meant then that I was over on the island. I got voted in. I was on the island at a meeting, met a man called Victor Main, who literally handed his business to me within a matter of weeks after meeting him. When I met him, I'm pretty sure I was having my first ever cup of coffee in the wharekai. I had shaved my head. I'm surprised that he didn't think that I was completely nuts. But the more we talked, he was like, oh, I might have some work for you if you like. And I was like, okay, let's I like to walk through doors and say yes. That gave me my writing training business. He took me around, he introduced me to his clients, and he handed it to me. Now, without my nana, without that being driven by my tupuna, because tupuna don't have to be those who have passed on. My grandmother, who was still alive at the time, is a tupuna. Without her putting me into that position at that time, I never would have met him. That business changed everything for me and my whānau. It gave me the ability to be in places that I otherwise would never have been, and it gave me the opportunity to take risks and then get the feedback that I could do those things that are the big scary things. And look, I'm really good at them. And I just grew and I grew and I grew in my confidence and my the platform that I had where I could be influencing and my voice could be heard got bigger and bigger. I always knew that there was a chance that I would hand that business on to someone else at some stage because it had been given to me. Now, here's where the story gets a little bit more challenging, because a couple of years ago, I did do that and I handed it over. What I really wanted to do, and I think this is tupuna driven as well, is to open a cafe here in Rotorua where I'm living that's total immersion Te Ao Māori, like zero English, not reo rua, not strongly encouraging of the reo, total immersion. You walk through the doors, none of the staff, the kaimahi, none of the customers, front of house, back of house, whatever. We are all speaking Te Ao Māori. Because anyone who's on this journey knows it's really hard to go and find places to use your reo, and you have to fill in, you have to fit classes in around the rest of your life. You have to tack it on, you have to travel, you have to do all those things. I was driving home from a kaupapa, and I thought, what would it look like if there was a place where, and just a normal everyday thing, and they all just happened to be speaking Te Ao Māori, and I was like, well, everyone goes to a cafe every now and then, let's do it. Now, it's been over 2 years. That cafe is not yet open, and that has been the biggest test of my adult life since leaving the church. It has shaken my confidence. It has made me question everything. I've had periods of dark depression. I was like, cool, this is the next thing that feels true and right to me. I'm going to do it. I believe in it. And all of the evidence of the past 12 years or whatever says that I can make decisions and just do whatever I want. I'm smart enough and I've got the resources. If I think that this is a thing I want to do, I can do it. And so 2 years later, still not having done it, that's been rough. It's been a bit it's shaken me. I don't regret handing the business off to someone else so that she and her children can grow in the same way that I did. It was a mess. It was just such a tongue. It was such a gift. And I'm watching that happen, and I'm really grateful to have been part of it. I think that I'm getting closer to getting the cafe open. I absolutely believe that it's tupuna driven because I can't let go of it. Never have I tried to achieve something for longer than 2 years and kept going and kept trying. I would have just usually gone, oh, clearly this isn't meant to happen. Right, what's the next thing? And I can't give up on it. Last little bit, we've achieved kohanga reo, we've achieved kura kaupapa, we've achieved whare wānanga, we've achieved kura reo and wānanga and whānau and hapu and iwi classes and events to encourage the reo, and we've got whānau who are raising their children in the reo. But the gap in between is regular everyday spaces. What are the things in between kohanga, kura, whare wānanga, and the things that we do at home and on the marae? It's that piece that's missing, and I truly believe that once we get this up and running, and it's under a charitable trust, it's not about getting rich. We get it up and running, we use the profits to set up the next one in the next town and the next one in the next town, and before you know it, we'll have other types of businesses that are total immersion. You'll have your mechanic, you'll have the lawyer's office, you'll have the Foursquare. You know, I really believe that this is the missing part to help us as a country get to a bilingual place.
Amazing.
So I'm going to keep trying.
Hold on to your vision, right? That's a form of faith, isn't it? It's what you don't see. But you know that it's going to happen, and you have absolute trust in that and trust in your ability to make that happen as well. You've written a book around Te Reo as well. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I'm not great at promoting my books. So somebody wanted me to do some cultural capacity training in their organisation, so I created a resource to go with that. I had people on my team running my business, graphic designer. I've got a beautiful man with all of his beautiful carvings that we can take photos of. So I just created a resource for this training, and then people wanted to know where they could buy it, and so it turned into a book. It's called Engaging with Māori for Success in Business, and you can buy it off my website. Around that time, before that, people started asking me, how did you become this you know, how did you get to this point in your life? And I was like, I don't know, I've just learned some good shit. So I wrote a book called Good Shit I've Learned and self-published it and sold about 1,000 copies. Lessons in Badassery is a next edition of that same book. So it's a newer and improved book with a new title. And of course, since then I've changed my name. So both of those books are under Shelley Davies, and now I'm known as Miraka. Lessons in Badassery can be bought on Amazon. Anyway, it's on Spotify and Apple Books and all of that. So it's audiobook and ebook, Kindle and blah, blah, blah. But Lessons in Badassery, it's a little bit of fun, but it's also just these little punchy lessons. I have people telling me, because there's an audiobook, I go to sleep sometimes listening to you swear at me.
So you've got the audiobook as well that people can listen to on those platforms too. To everyone who's listening, by the way, I've listened to some of the audiobook. It's amazing. So go and grab that. It is next level, stepping into your power, claiming your body, just lessons in badassery. So if Shelley's not going to promote her shit, I'll promote the fuck out of it.
One thing I will say about the lessons in badassery, it's a little hardcover book. It's not big or weighty. It's not lots of chapters. It's a lovely gift, especially for non-readers, because you don't have to read it from beginning to end. You can have it sitting there and just pick it up and just like open a page and just read the lesson that's on that page, which is, when I say lesson, it's like some very sweary story about how I learned something. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be for readers.
Where else can anyone find you or follow you?
Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I've got my website. That's definitely where you can find me. There'll be the occasional post for sure. LinkedIn is probably where I'm the most active because that's what helps me get the keynote work and the MC work and those kinds of things.
I'd love if you could just share one big statement or big lesson that you have learned that is the one thing that you would want someone to take away from today who's listening.
If I could give anyone my most loving advice, it would be this. Listen to yourself, listen to your inner voice, and love it and honor it. That's it. Listen to your inner voice and love it and honor it.
I love that so much. Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you follow along. It really helps the show. Make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much, Miraka, for coming on here and being so vulnerable with us and sharing your story of everything you've been through. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. E rere atu ana ngā mihi ki a koe e te marae kura.
Kia ora.